Get into a political debate with people. I will not. But I do need to vent because I have noticed this my entire life. When people in power are evil, they get a lot of worshipers. When people have committed horrific acts, they get a lot of worshipers. For the previous individual who was in office, tons of worshipers. They think that he is God himself. Now, because people have selective amnesia, they selectively pretend that they don't remember that prices were sky high. They don't remember that the shelves were empty of groceries while he blamed the truck drivers, and truck drivers used their cell phones to show the ships that had pallets on them that were not permitted to be brought on shore to be loaded into the trucks. The truck driver said, "We're being blamed for it." And he had a live video on his phone showing all the pallets that were still sitting, waiting to be unloaded. Okay? People conveniently forget that groceries, the shelves were empty. They conveniently forget that all these criminals were let in here to do whatever the hell they wanted to do. Crimes were softened and innocent people were treated like criminals. That shit is still going on to this day. Fentanyl was coming through here and is still coming through here, and people's kids are dying of overdoses every day. If you don't believe me, go to Texas Pictures documentaries and you will see all the endless people who have died from fentanyl overdoses. Because fentanyl was allowed to come splashing all up in through the United States, and media never said a word about it because we're just going to pretend it didn't happen. We're going to pretend it didn't happen. We're going to forget about the people who came into this country and committed murder and sexual assaults. We're just going to pretend that didn't happen too. We're going to just stick our fingers in our ears and pretend none of that shit happened. We're going to pretend that shrinkflation didn't happen and still continues to happen, I might add, where things are a lot smaller but cost you more. So you're going to spend double because you have to buy more and more and more because you're getting a tiny amount per, every time you buy it. Everything is smaller and costs more. Media's not talking about that shit either. And all the worshipers pretend they don't notice that too. They pretend they don't notice that they're getting bent over at the gas station. They pretend that they don't notice the influx of crime and how police departments were defunded. Oh, we're going to pretend don't know nothing about none of that. Nope. He was God. He was God himself. Then you've got demons all across YT talking about Donald's health and getting boners off of the fact that his health is possibly declining and can't wait for his funeral. People are actually saying that. All that shit that I just mentioned, shrinkflation, shelves empty of groceries, people couldn't feed their babies, there was no baby food on the shelves, crime was coming up all up in through here. Another country that starts with C was allowed, nobody talks about this shit either, was allowed to purchase land next to every single military base in the United States, which is a massive security breach. But that's okay though, because they worship him and they swing from his nuts because everything he did was perfectly okay with them. None of that happened under Donald. I'm not saying he's perfect. He's lost his mind too, to a certain degree. He's done some things that I don't like. But wishing someone to be dead when you had the fucking monster, a demon, a worse demon in prior to him, but you got selective amnesia, you want to pretend you don't remember the dirt that he did because you're too busy swinging from his walnuts and you think that he's God himself. People better fucking look in the mirror and wonder why, ask themselves why their brain doesn't work. Stop worshiping evil ass motherfuckers and pay attention to what's going on around you that was permitted to come to happen around you. And the crimes were perfectly okay to happen. Prosecutors across the entire United States were not permitted to do their fucking job. But y'all worship that? You got to be fucking kidding me. Homeland Security should have never permitted another country to purchase land next to our highly secure military bases, but that's okay. There was a guy who is an illegal, whatever he is, migrant, immigrant, whatever the fuck he's called, migrant. He was driving a semi and made an illegal U-turn, which resulted in 3 people being killed. Do you know how many thousands upon thousands of people want him to be set free? He got arrested. They want him to be set free. I am coming to the conclusion that, oh, it was an accident. What in the hell are you talking about? It's an accident. He made an illegal U-turn on purpose, but that was an accident, even though he did it on purpose? Really? What in the hell is wrong with the human brain that common sense is not even part of the equation? What is wrong with the human brain? How can people be so stupid? How can people be supportive of the wrong thing? How can people wish harm on somebody who was trying, to some extent, trying to clean up the dirt that was done before? This truck driver killed 3 people, and that's perfectly okay. Set him free. People have some selective amnesia. I don't. I remember the dirt that was done before. And I remember being horrified about it. And I also remember that Barry, who was actually running things, because Dummy couldn't tie his shoe nor walk up the stairs without falling. So he obviously wasn't running shit. Barry was running shit and did more devilish things the second time around. Increased prices of things exponentially for no fucking reason other than why not. Tried to make sure that we could never tap into the earth to get oil because he did not want us to be self-sufficient. The list goes on and on and on. Why people worship wickedness, I will never, ever, ever understand why people find it impossible to use their brain. Impossible. You've got women who have been sexually assaulted, and when they come forward, they get ripped upside down because men are allowed to do that because they got needs. You must have enticed him. What were you wearing? Were you friendly? Did you ever give him your number? Did you ever smile? Because if you smiled, you were probably flirting with him. In other words, I know he broke the law and assaulted you, but since we don't have laws anymore, it had to be your fault, not his. Because men can't help themselves. They got needs. To actually want someone hurt who didn't do half, 1/4 of the damage of the previous is scary to me. The selective amnesia is scary too. I saw someone and was talking to someone who absolutely hates Donald. I guess like I said, when you're evil, the one before who was super evil, people love that. They love that. They love being abused. They actually get a kick out of it. And because they choose to worship this person, they choose to forget everything evil that the person did. It's scary how people can do that. How they can completely ignore what's right in front of their face. And Barry was the one who warned about C, which killed a lot of people around the world. That was called population control. But it was perfectly okay. It's okay. As long as it doesn't affect the worshipers, they don't care if it happens to other people. So you're no different than the previous admin because you act just like them. No wonder you think they're great because you are horrible too. That's why you worship them. How would he know that something like that was about to happen? Unless it was in the works. And I know it was in the works because somebody leaked a photo of Barry overseas, overseeing the whole process. Of the release of that word. The C word. 5-letter C word. Which was done on purpose. And everybody act like that's perfectly okay. People had to go to the hospital by themselves. People that were super healthy drop dead. And that's okay. That's perfectly okay. There's no problem with that. When you don't have the luxury of being blind and you don't have selective amnesia and you can see the evil that someone does, not only see the evil, but you remember the evil, you get baffled by the people who refuse to see it. You get baffled by, rioting happening. And because there were no laws, and there still is no laws to this day, to a certain extent, there's no laws. Especially for bad people. Okay? You weren't allowed to, when the loitering happened in the West Coast, you weren't allowed to protect your own business. But everybody was okay with that. That's okay. That's food on your table, but it's no big deal. You know why? Because all the worshipers, none of that impacted them directly. Now, if that impacted them, it would be a different story. But as long as it happens to you all over there, we still think this person is great. I am glad that my brain is not twisted like that. I am glad that I remember the evil that people do so that I don't make the mistake of worshiping them and ignoring everything horrible that they've done. I am baffled and blown away by people who will stick to people who are horrific. The truck driver is a prime example. He murdered 3 people, but that's not a big deal. It's just murder. Let release him. Come on. I don't know what's wrong with the human brain that it doesn't know how to have common sense. I'm just baffled by that. I'm just venting. I just need to vent. A lack of common sense is just, I'm confused by it. Baffled by a lack of common sense and the lack of seeing what's right in front of your face because you were told by whoever, this is how you're supposed to think. Okay. Wow. All of you who have kids in college, they're not sticking to the subject material. They are brainwashing your kids. So, next thing you know, they're all part of the extreme left. They might not have gone to college like that, but they come out that way. because all teachers are part of the union. Professors, all of them are all part of the union. The union is all left twisted individuals. And they love to force feed their opinion down everybody's throat until you start being a Stepford wife. You start to repeat what they say, even if it makes no sense. I am just really grateful that my brain does not work like that. Really grateful. Really, really, truly grateful. I just needed to vent. Y'all take care.